I'm Dana Searles, and welcome to This Week in Iowa Politics on We Are Iowa Plus. This week, Governor Reynolds announced Iowa's own celebration for America's 250th birthday. The Des Moines City Council held a public meeting to discuss its budget, and we're diving into Iowa's 3rd Congressional District race and what it has looked like in the past. But first, we start with the poll released on July 1st showing where the race for Iowa's open U.S. Senate seat now stands. Now, we already knew this race was going to be closely watched, but two new polls are now showing really the closeness of this race. The first poll was conducted by the New York Times and Siena University. It polled 600 Iowans between June 15th and the 27th. So the poll shows Republican Ashley Hinson currently leading the race with 48%, while Democrat Josh Turek has 46%. Now, 5% of those surveyed were undecided or refused to support either candidate. The poll does have a margin of error of plus or minus 4.7 percentage points. Goes to show how close this race is and how important it is for both parties. In a statement, Hinson's campaign commented on the poll, saying in part, quote, Ashley Hinson is going to beat Josh Turek. Iowans of all political parties are behind her, and she will continue to earn every single vote. Meanwhile, a Fox News poll released shortly after that first poll, it just polled over 1,000 Iowans across the state. It found Turek leading Hinson by 4 points with 50% to 46%. Now, the poll was conducted between June 23rd through the 27th. This poll's margin of error is 3 percentage points. In a statement about the poll, Turek's campaign said in part, quote, we will spend the next 118 days connecting with Iowans in every corner of the state and across the political spectrum to send a fighter for the working class to the U.S. Senate. Now, the closeness of this race and the back and forth with the polls makes this next story relevant. Democrats only need to flip 4 seats in the midterm election to have a simple majority in the Senate, meaning every race counts for both parties. Iowa is one of those races that counts, and it could count even more now. There's a shakeup in Maine, which is a critical state that Democrats eyed and saw reasonable to flip. Maine Democratic Senate candidate Graham Platner announced he is officially suspending his campaign after facing calls from his own party to drop out of the race after sexual assault allegations. A Politico report says a woman who previously dated Platner claims he drunkenly forced her to have sex after she told him to stop. Platner is denying those allegations. Now, the Maine Democratic Party did approve a plan to hold a nominating convention to select a new Senate nominee, but with only months to campaign, it could be an uphill battle, which means Iowa's Senate seat could be all that more critical for Democrats. Now, Iowa is, of course, one of those U.S. Senate seats that Democrats want to flip. So if the Democratic Party does decide to shift some resources and focus from Maine due to Platner suspending his campaign, depending on how the nominee stands against that Republican candidate there, Iowa could be one of those states that we see even more resources put into. Now, Democratic candidate in Iowa, Josh Turek, he weighed in on Platner's new allegations when they first came out. I want to note this was before Platner suspended his campaign. He said, quote, the allegations against Graham Platner are truly disturbing. This isn't about party. This is about right and wrong and who should represent their state in the U.S. Senate. He should drop out immediately. In Washington last week, in a major ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court knocked down President Donald Trump's executive order seeking to restrict birthright citizenship. The court ruled 6-3 to uphold the more than century-old legal precedent. Now, the Constitution says anyone born on American soil is a U.S. citizen, even if their parents are not. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote in his majority opinion, quote, the framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. We keep that promise today, end quote. Now, while some are calling the decision a victory, some Republicans are disapproving it.
That's a fundamental part of what it means to be American, that we all are treated equally under the law and that we're all citizens when we're born here. Nothing could be more American.
It's been abused. It's one of those things that was intended to serve a noble and important purpose and has been thwarted and overused and abused. And I will say I'm very disappointed in that outcome.
And now President Trump is calling on Congress to end birthright citizenship, saying it's unnecessary to amend the Constitution. In a social media post, you see, he called the decision in part, quote, too bad for our country. Now, back here at home, local immigration advocates say while the ruling brings a sense of relief, they still believe there's more work to do.
It has created a chilling effect. It has created doubt amongst many people in this country. And it really has ginned up the fear on those who support Trump about citizenship in our country. Lots of questions. Should not be the case. We are a country of immigrants. We were built by immigrants.
In a statement shortly after the ruling, Iowa Attorney General Brenna Bird says she's disappointed in the decision, adding it, quote, makes it even more imperative that the federal government and states are allowed to protect their borders against illegal immigration. Well, also last week here in Iowa, Governor Kim Reynolds signed an executive order establishing the Iowa Medicaid Fraud Elimination Task Force. Now, her office says it's aimed at eliminating Medicaid fraud, waste, and abuse, and ensuring funds are used for Iowans who qualify for benefits. Attorney General Brenna Bird will lead the task force. It comes after the DOJ announced a similar national task force, which included 8 Iowa cases. All state and local departments, agencies, boards, and commissions must cooperate with the task force. Its final report with recommendations to eliminate Medicaid waste statewide is due to the governor in 120 days. Now, 10 years ago, Reynolds and the governor at the time, Terry Branstad, transitioned Medicaid in Iowa to a privatized system. Now, candidate for governor and state auditor Rob Stans says if the state wanted to uncover Medicaid fraud, they should reverse the privatization. He says in part, quote, this task force features no perspectives from patients or providers. And he called out Reynolds specifically, calling the task force, quote, another example of her serving powerful insiders and special interest groups over Iowa families. Well, right now we're learning Iowa's SNAP program is being recognized for accuracy and efficiency. The Iowa Department of Health and Human Services says the program's payment error rate is just over 5% for the latest federal fiscal year. Now, that is well below the national average. Officials say staying below 6% means Iowa will avoid federal penalties, protecting taxpayer dollars while helping ensure families receive the correct benefits on time. Well, coming up, the race for Iowa's Congressional District representing parts of central Iowa will be a close one to watch. We'll take a look at the candidates and how past races with the incumbent Zach Nunn have shaped up. Well, this week, the race we're taking a closer look at is the race for Iowa's 3rd Congressional District. Now, this race is highly competitive as it represents parts of central Iowa, and it's a district that has been targeted nationally. For the Republicans, incumbent Zach Nunn is hoping to keep this seat Republican. Nunn has served in his current seat for 2 terms. Before that, he served in the Iowa House of Representatives and the Iowa Senate. And prior to becoming a politician, Nunn served for nearly 2 decades in the U.S. Air Force. Running to unseat Nunn is Democrat Sarah Trone-Garriott. Trone-Garriott currently serves in the Iowa Senate. She was first elected to the Senate in 2020. Prior to that, Trone-Garriott has served as a minister and was the coordinator of interfaith engagement at the Des Moines Area Religious Council. And this race for Iowa's 3rd Congressional District seat is one that is consistently close. So let's take a look back at the past 2 times that Nunn ran for this seat. First, in 2022, Nunn defeated Democratic incumbent Cindy Axne. Nunn beat Axne by just about 2,000 votes, gaining 50.3% of the votes, and Axne getting 49.6%. Then, in 2024, Nunn looked to keep his seat against Democratic challenger Lenon Bacam. Now, Nunn won again, but this time it was a slightly more comfortable margin, still very close, gaining 51.8% of the votes, with Bacam getting 47.9%. Well, coming up, Governor Reynolds is sharing the state's plans to celebrate America's 250th birthday, when Iowans can celebrate and what it will consist of. Plans are officially in order for Iowa to celebrate America's 250th birthday. Governor Kim Reynolds signed a proclamation recognizing America's 250th at the Capitol this week. Now, during that event, Reynolds also announced Iowa will mark October 24th of this year as America's Harvest Festival. The festival will feature Iowa-made, handcrafted products as well as live entertainment. Leaders say it highlights Iowa's agricultural roots and how it shaped the country's identity.
Visitors of all ages will enjoy a wide range of exhibits that educate, engage, and entertain, from hands-on experiences and historical reenactments to all kinds of family-friendly activities. There will be vendors featuring handcrafted products made in Iowa, live entertainment and music, and of course, we are Iowa, so there will be plenty of food. And it will be available to everyone with no charge for admission.
Reynolds said the event will honor Iowan heritage, including iconic innovators like Norman Borlaug, Henry Wallace, and George Washington Carver. Well, the city of Des Moines held a public meeting this week to address a shortfall in the 2028 budget. Des Moines is facing a $12 to $17 million shortfall as a result of recent property tax legislation signed by Governor Kim Reynolds. The meeting looked to get feedback on the 2028 fiscal year budget specifically. City Manager Scott Sanders, he showed a presentation on potential areas that could see some cuts, including libraries and city programs, and then he took public feedback. Emotions, they ran pretty high during the meeting, with many not able to agree on what should be cut.
Maybe it'd be a good idea if some of our suburbs actually put some money into this, because they're sending people through these services. Lastly, or more severely, close a smaller neighborhood branch.
I think this is enough public input for our budget.
The next meeting will be after the August 26th deadline to make the first round of cuts. However, also you can still weigh in on the budget and what services you want to keep or cut with the city's online exercise. You can take it and fill out a budget feedback form at dsm.city. Well, another very busy week in Iowa politics, so let's look ahead to what we're tracking next week. Next week, we'll look at who is running for Iowa's 2nd Congressional District, and we'll look at the past races that we have seen in that district. And as always, we will continue tracking any top political headlines. We'll have that and much more next week on This Week in Iowa Politics. Thank you all for watching on We Are Iowa Plus. I'm Dana Searles. Have a great day.